Welcome to the Valley Today, a public service presentation of KAIL-TV. One spring day in 1993, a landfill worker noticed something unusual in the earth being cut. It was a tusk from a Columbian mammoth now dead for 500,000 years. Upon further investigation, they soon realized hundreds of fossils in this landfill north of Madera. Join us as we visit with the Fossil Discovery Center of Madera County, next on the Valley Today. Well, welcome to the Valley Today. We are here with Grady Billington, and we're here at the Fossil Discovery Center here of Madera County.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on our show.
My pleasure.
And what a great find you have here, and you're an educator that's been in the education system here in Madera County for your whole career.
Yes.
And what a fantastic resource this is.
Absolutely. It's great. And we've been here almost a year.
Yeah.
And we've had thousands of people come through here already, particularly school-aged children.
Okay, now catch us up. What is the Fossil Discovery Center and how did it come to be?
In 1993, fossils were discovered across the street at the Madera County landfill.
And that's it right over there?
That's it right over there. That mountain there is man-made. Before that, it was part of the Chowchilla River fan for thousands of years.
Wow.
And as they began to dig what they call cells to bury trash, they discovered fossils there. It was a natural low place where water would stand during late July and August. The animals, they're of course they're Ice Age mammals. They concentrated around that water source. They lived here in the foothills and the lower elevations of the mountains all the time. But when water got scarce, they concentrated here. And of course, the prey and the predator met here.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, over the thousands of years, we found fossils at several different elevations. We go down 60 feet, and we find fossils at all levels, all the way down.
So where it was the typical height, the topographical height, you went 60 feet?
Well, we found the first fossils were about 5 feet down, and then we found them at each level.
Yeah.
There's evidence of great floods as we dig down that would have, again, concentrated the animals in this area.
And so this is assumed to be about 700,000 years back in time?
That's the paleontologist's estimate of how old this find is.
Wow.
And
almost 1 million years.
Yes.
3/4 of a million years.
Right. And so we still find fossils today over there. If you were to go over there and visit the landfill, and from where we're standing, we found that 9-foot mammoth tusk about 300 yards from where we're standing.
Yeah.
And it was down about 50 feet. And we think it probably had been there maybe 500,000 years. And it's a near perfect fossil. And of course, it's one of our displays inside, one of our exhibits.
So this is a great resource for Fresno State also, because they can bring in kids that are going through their paleontology program, and they get hands-on experience and don't have to travel that far.
Yeah, we have Fresno State is intensely involved in our project. We have an on-site paleontologist, Narangela, is here. And Dr. Dundas is the vertebrate paleontologist at Fresno State. He sends his students up here. We have students from Merced Junior College, from Fresno Junior College District. And of course, we have students from all over come here as field trips, as we have here today.
Right.
And we are the San Joaquin Valley Paleontology Foundation. We are the operators of the center, and our purpose is educational, And so we're all about educating the students, the community at large, and the state about the history of fossils and how man relates to that history. And so we have a very eclectic kind of education program here.
Yeah.
And so far we've had about 3,000 elementary students come through here in the last 6 weeks.
Right. So this is a fantastic resource. You can get young kids in and get them indoctrinated into the dig find that you've got here.
Our educational goal is to help students realize the significance of furthering their education in the field of science.
Right.
We need lots of scientists.
Yeah.
And so that's part of our emphasis here. We are able to do outreach into all the schools. Every school in the valley has received invitations from us. We have billboards out on the freeway. You see evidence of that here this morning. People see those billboards and stop in.
Yeah.
And we have this replica of the water source. We have a replica of the dig site. And then we have 26 really neat exhibits inside. We have 9 full-scale skeletons of some of the more popular animals here.
And these are all the skeletons here are all animals that were discovered here?
Yes, we're up to 42 different species of animals that we found here.
Is there any new species that you guys have uncovered?
Well, Dr. Dundas has just found some fossils of a Sacramento perch, which is new. Mm-hmm. And we continue to study them. Identifying fossils is quite an art.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Dundas, and there are others that he consults with to identify these fossils. Wow. We've found rare fossils like the scimitar cat that Dr. Dundas has identified, and that's rare. And what's really rare is the number of fossils we found here in one little
very
place.
Concentrated on about what, 40 acres?
Of about 40 acres. Actually, it's almost a half a mile square.
Yeah.
But the dig site is about 40 acres.
Yeah.
And we will continue to find fossils because they're here.
Right. And you have an interesting way of finding them now. You have people that walk behind these big earth movers, yeah. And if they see something, then they mark it, and then they stop the dig right there, right?
The operators of the landfill and the Paleontology Foundation and Fresno State, we all work together.
Yeah.
And when they are excavating a cell, we're there. Fresno State is there, and the operators, of course, they're all there. And so we have a rather symbiotic relationship. So if we find a fossil, we flag it, and the operators of the landfill, they skirt around that, and we're able to dig them up and get them out of the way, and they continue to dig.
So if it hadn't been for the landfill operators, this might not ever been discovered if they didn't get permitted to dig here.
That's correct.
And like you said, it's a symbiosis. It's a beautiful symbiosis.
Yes, and it works perfectly. And so we're very anxious for them to start digging again, and perhaps that's going to be next summer.
Yeah.
And we'll be out there finding more fossils.
Yeah.
And we stand here in front of this really great mammoth sculpture, metal sculpture by Chris Sorensen. Chris is a metallurgist, so to speak. He made this especially for us and brought it up here, and we're so grateful for that.
Yeah,
it's our icon.
It screams right in front of the building, and you got a beautiful building here. How long have you had this facility?
Well, we opened last July 1st, and had a kind of a grand opening, but our really grand opening was the 15th of October, and we've been open every week since then in October. So we're not quite yet a year old, so to speak, but our success is phenomenal. We're the only place in the valley between Hayward and Los Angeles with a center that has all these fossils, these Ice Age fossils. We're the only place in the valley, and we're the only place that has a building designed for exhibiting fossils.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
And of course, we have we have our water source, we have our mock dig, and then all the real nice exhibits inside.
Yeah. Well, Grady, we're almost out of time.
Well, it's my pleasure.
We're here with Grady Billington, and of course you dodged the supervisor meeting today to be able to be with us. We appreciate that. And tell the folks exactly where you're at so they can come and visit this fantastic site.
We are at exit 164 on Highway 99, and that is Avenue 21 and a half, or it is the Fairmead exit from Highway 99.
And this was called the Fairmead Dig?
This is a Fairmead Landfill.
Landfill.
Right, and it's been the Fairmead Landfill since we were a county.
Wow.
But it has not been a landfill, it was just the county dump.
Yeah.
Until it became a landfill.
Yeah. And hey, you guys, you're classing the place up because now we have a bird's eye view of that. And by the way, the science of the landfill is another component of our education program. That's great.
Because that's a science in itself.
Yeah.
And so we couple that with the geology, the fossils. We have an awesome education program here.
That's great, Grady.
The teachers who've been here are just elated to have this place.
Yeah.
And it's so close and handy. And like I say, we've had thousands of school-age students here in the last month and a half.
We are now with Blake Bufford here at the dig.
Right, Fossil Discovery Center.
Fossil Discovery Center of Madera County.
That's right.
Yeah, and you're a native of Madera, and this is a dream come true for you.
Yeah, pretty much. I was born and raised in Madera, and I've always been interested in natural history and fossils and
so
Native
this
American
is right
stuff.
Up your alley.
Yeah, I've always been interested in it since I was a little kid. So.
And this is the actual bones from the dig. This is some mammoth bones here?
Right, these are all, these particular bones on the table are all from different Columbian mammoths. They're all limb bones and different states of preservation. Some are better than others.
Now, why did they get the name Columbian? Why weren't they the California mammoth? Why weren't they the San Joaquin mammoth? Why weren't they the Madera mammoth?
Well, they came up with the name probably before anybody knew they were going to be out here, and it's Columbian, referring to Christopher Columbus.
Oh, okay.
Pre-Columbian means before Columbus, and so that's where the name comes from. It basically, Christopher Columbus being the discoverer of
these
America.
Animals are carbon dated, what, 700,000 years ago?
Yeah, they can't.
A little before Christopher Columbus.
Right, time. way before. They're all from the Pleistocene era, which is 1.8 to about 10,000 years ago. 1.8 million to about 10,000 years ago.
Now, one thing that I wanted to ask Grady was, has there been any human remains discovered?
No, not here at the landfill. These animals were living way before human beings had entered North America. So
there wasn't even Native Americans here? No,
the oldest date that anthropologists will accept for Native Americans is around 12,000 years ago.
Really? So just a really short span of time compared to all these other animals.
Yeah, there's uninhabited for until the last 10 or 12,000 years.
Wow. And so this was all just a big grassland swamp?
Right, it was it was very similar to what the valley would be today without all the civilization, the farming and agriculture and cities and things. All the rivers were coming unhindered out of the Sierra Nevada, flowing across the valley. There was mostly open grassland, just like it would be today, with riparian forests along all the streams.
So oak forests?
There were large oak forests in the San Joaquin Valley until maybe 100 years ago.
Right.
On the eastern side, there was several. So it was a different. This was the Pleistocene, so the climate was a little cooler.
Okay.
We don't know exactly what type of vegetation was here, but mostly grassland.
And Grady had mentioned the Ice Age also, and so that affected this part of the world also?
Right. The Sierras were capped with glaciers. Yosemite Valley was being carved out around this time.
As a glacial carving? Yeah.
Glacial Valley. That's the last thing that carved it out.
Very interesting.
And when the climate changed around 10,000 years ago, the Earth began warming up, and that may have been the demise of these animals. It's still debated, but definitely had something to do with it.
So these animals had 500,000 years of evolving and living here, and then all of a sudden, 10,000 years ago, what? They're gone?
They pretty much went extinct. They had been around for over 1 million years. The first horse goes back 54 million years ago, the very first ones.
Right.
And of course, they've evolved to what they are today.
Were they much different than the ones that the Spanish introduced back 300 years ago or 200 years ago?
Yeah, they were very different. The horses started as just a very small fox, about a fox-sized animal, up until the horse we have today.
Small horse.
Very small, 54 million years ago. These horses that we find here at the Fairmead site were very similar to modern horses. They're an extinct species, but if you had seen them, you'd say, well, it's definitely a horse.
Right.
They weren't a whole lot. They were different, but very similar to today. And one thing they think why these animals died out was the climate was changing, the vegetation was changing.
So it got colder?
It got warmer.
It got warmer.
It was the last ice age ended around 10,000 years ago.
Okay.
So there's various factors. They haven't pinned it down exactly. It's probably a combination of
but they're able to get samples of different depths of the soil and figure out kind of what the climate was doing, right?
Right. They'll take a lot of cores from the ice caps, and that tells them about a lot of the climatic conditions.
So what were the animals that were here? You had cats. You had big cats.
Right.
Big,
larger cats than today.
Yeah. How big were the cats? A couple 100 pounds?
The largest was one of the saber-tooth. We had a saber-tooth cat here in California, Smilodon fatalis. He was around close to 800 pounds, a little bit less.
That's a big kitty.
750 pounds.
Yeah.
Something around in that age. And there was another cat, a little bit smaller, called a scimitar cat. There was an American cheetah. There was a type of a jaguar. Before this, there was an American lion, which was the biggest of all, I think.
Right.
But we didn't have the American lion here, but we did have the saber-toothed cats and scimitar cats here in the valley.
And you had some other animals, sloth or?
There was three species of ground sloths here.
And they got pretty big. The biggest one was pretty big, wasn't it?
The largest was 3,500 pounds. That's a Harlan's.
3,500 pound sloth?
3,500 pounds. He's a big animal. It's a Harlan's ground sloth.
Were they a vegetarian?
They were vegetarians, herbivores, probably very slow moving, like to stay along the river channels, things like that.
So they were perfect hunting material for these predators.
They may not have been because they were pretty large and they had some pretty sizable claws. Yeah. So predators usually don't like to go after something that's going to put up a really good fight.
Right.
So they tend to go after things like horses and camels.
And then, so how many of these Colombian mammoths have you found here?
We've found portions of, I wouldn't know exactly how many, but
more than one.
Oh yeah, definitely more than one. Yeah. They're the third most common animal that we find. So we probably have hundreds of bones of Colombian mammoths and tusks and teeth and from various individuals. And this is a sample of one here. This is about the right height for a Colombian mammoth.
You mean that's about where the head would be in relationship to where it is to the ground?
Right. So that's approximately the right height. They're 14 to 15 feet tall.
So what did they weigh?
They weighed 20,000 pounds, about 10 tons, I think.
Yeah.
10, yeah.
So is that the biggest mammal? Biggest land mammal?
The biggest one out here, I believe there was our larger mammoth, which is farther south, but the largest one here, for all intents and purposes, was the Colombian mammoth.
Yeah.
Larger than the woolly mammoth.
Yeah. Wow. And where were the woolly mammoths discovered? Were they European or?
They're scattered throughout the world. They tended to be in the colder areas, Siberia, up in Alaska, portions of the Midwest that were closer to the glaciers.
Yeah.
It was a little bit warmer here, so we didn't have the woolly mammoths here. We had the Colombian, which are rather hairless, like animals, like elephants today.
Right. So
a little smaller.
These guys were hairless because of the climate that was here.
Right. Yeah, it's slightly warmer. It wasn't cold enough for a woolly mammoth.
Yeah.
So these are the typical mammoth out here in the San Joaquin
And
Valley.
there's no other discoveries like this in the valley?
There's no museum like we have here in the valley.
Right. But are there any other digs that have come up with some of the same types of animals?
Yeah, they're discovered randomly throughout the valley. Mammoths and camels turn up Fresno, Merced, the Bay Area. They're all through California, all across North America.
Yeah.
Mostly the western portion. And isolated finds do occur, but the sizable fossil bed that we have here at the Fairmead site is pretty unique.
And it's because of the water source. Because it was a dwindling water source in the summer, and that's where they congregated.
Yeah, it was basically a river system flowing through here. So in the summer months, it was probably less. And animals tend to congregate around whatever water source there was. This happened to be a river flowing through here. And the only reason the bones are here is because the key thing was preservation. So because the river would flood in the wet season and bury the bones with sediment and silt, that's why they're here.
Oh, and that would protect
that would preserve them, yeah. So if the bones were not being buried, they just laid out in the fields, then they rotted away, we'll never find them.
So it's because of the silt that was washing in on the riverbed that protected these bones.
Yeah, that's what we think is the burial was the key to the preservation.
Yeah. And so, what was the last discovery that they made here at the landfill?
The last time was, I think they excavated here was 2007.
Yeah.
I believe. I think I was here. I can't remember the exact date. Just a few years ago. So every time they dig at the landfill, we do discover more fossil remains.
And that's untampered earth that they're digging, not what they're redigging, but stuff that hasn't been disturbed before.
Yeah, it's all undisturbed Pleistocene sediments washed out of the Sierra Nevadas.
How exciting, huh?
Full of Pleistocene animals like mammoths.
Well, this is a very very cool exhibit.
Thanks.
And all these animals are from this dig?
Right. Yeah, we have 39 different species, from a Columbian mammoth down to a shrew, a snake, a frog, fish,
really,
and everything in between. So that's another thing that makes it unique, is because it's not just a few isolated animals like sloths and camels, but we can get the whole cross-section of the environment by looking at all the small animals as well.
Right.
So most animals...
Trying to get an idea of the food chain, because the smaller animals get eaten by the bigger animals.
Right.
Unless they're vegetarian. And
then they're eating plants.
Yeah.
But, so even the burrowing animals, we have those here. And most animals from the Pleistocene are still with us today. Just certain species, the largest species, died out.
Yeah.
And
they've evolved a little too, though, right? I mean, like the wolf and the. I'm sure that was there a coyote here 500,000 years ago?
Right. We found coyote, badger, ground squirrel, Canada geese, Sacramento perch. I don't think any skunk.
Now the perch was a new species that was discovered, right?
It's one of the 39.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly when it was discovered and what portion of the dig it was found in, but
can you imagine being
that animal's
there
still
500,000
around.
years ago and seeing all these animals? I mean, it had to be the biodiversity had to just be immense.
It was really amazing. It would really be something to see, because the valley was unspoiled. All these animals were living out here.
Right.
It resembled the Serengeti Plains as far as the number of animals, different variety, and there had been massive herds of horses and camels and mammoths.
Camels. You wouldn't think that there would be camels here in California.
Right. But they're definitely an American animal. Camels and horses actually evolved in North America and spread to the rest of the world. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Right. So they're an American animal.
Yeah.
But then they went extinct here, had a 10,000-year hiatus, and then Europeans brought the horses back.
Right, the Spaniards,
The Spaniards, yes.
Well, we're almost out of time.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Blake, but tell people where they can come to enjoy this facility.
Okay, the Fossil Discovery Center is located off of Highway 99, Avenue 21.5, exit 164. It's north of Madera, California, between Madera and